Welcome to one and all. Tēnā koutou te whānau o Unitarians o Tāmaki Makaurau. Tēnā koutou ngā manuhiri, no mai haere mai, I tēnei whare karakia o te atua. Ko Shireen Caldwell toko ingoa, ko London, England, Marlborough, New Zealand aho. Ko Wairau te awa, ko Mount Stokes Endeavour Inlet, Marlborough Monga. Ke Tāmaki Makaurau, aho e noa ana. No reira e rau rangatira mā, tēnā koutou katoa. Welcome all, church whānau and visitors, to this place of worship, virtual and physical, a space made sacred to our coming together today, and by gatherings of Unitarians for over 122 years. Welcome to those joining us remotely, to those here in the building, and to those watching the recording at a later time. If you are a visitor here for the first time, thank you for choosing to be here with us. If you are a member of regular attendance, thank you for returning to join us together in our free and responsible search for truth and meaning. Come. Afterwards, let us join together for morning tea. It is our sacrament of hospitality. Please join us. It won't be complete without you. Our opening words are called The Bright Thread of Hope, and the words are by the Reverend Victoria Stafford in A People So Bold. There is too much beauty in this world to give up on it, yet it is always too soon to surrender to cynicism. Bring your doubt, your skepticism, your downright confusion, even your bitterness. But in the midst of all of these, in the center, wrap your tender fingers around that still bright thread of hope. Feel in your heart that still steady hunger for something more, the vision we glimpse every day in the rising sun across the foothills, the light that spreads across the face of the one we love, the look of knowing all there is to know and still loving life, loving us just as it is, just as we are. For this hour, we come to celebrate, to praise, to give thanks, to refuse to give up, to steady ourselves keepers of hope, brave builders of the still possible world. Come, let us worship together. And now invite Lynn to please come and light the chalice. The Great Turning is by Lisa Garcia Sampson of the UUA website. In these wild, historic and uncertain times, we gather to remember who we are, who we belong to, and what we are called to do. As we light this chalice, we kindle the spirit of the Great Turning, the movement for justice alive in our nation today. May we feel it in our bones and in the stillness of this hour. May we sense it calling our name. Please say with me the covenant which David will now put on the screen. Love is the doctrine of this church. The quest for truth is its sacrament, and service is its prayer. To dwell together in peace, to seek knowledge and freedom, to serve humankind in fellowship, to the end that all souls shall grow in harmony. Thus would we covenant with each other and with our God. Jamie's now going to play a special piece on the organ for us It's the Bach Prelude and Fugue in C major. Thank you, Jamie. As I said, John Maindonald, a long-standing member of this church, will be our speaker this morning. And he's chosen the following reading to complement his talk. and it comes from Forrest Church, who was the senior minister of All Souls Unitarian Church in New York. He died in 2009. He writes, "We Unitarian Universalists have inherited a magnificent theological legacy. In a sweeping answer to creeds that divide the human family, Unitarianism proclaims that we spring from a common source, universalism, that we share a common destiny, that we are brothers and sisters by nature. Our Unitarian, and especially our Universalist forebears, affirmed as a matter of faith." The problem is this: without a cadre of unabashedly evangelical Universalists, the Universalist gospel will languish. This would constitute not only a private sorrow for Unitarian Universalists, but also a shared loss for all those who might serve by founding their lives on Universalist principles. To make good on our theological inheritance, we must find a way to come together and proclaim Universalism fit for the challenges of the 21st century. But two obstacles thwart fulfillment for this mission. First, Universalism is an exacting gospel. Taken seriously, no theology is more challenging, morally, spiritually, or intellectually, to love your enemy as yourself, to see your tears in another's eyes, to respect and even embrace otherness rather than merely to tolerate or even worse, dismiss it. None of this comes naturally to us. We are weaned on the rational presumption that if two people disagree, only one can be right. This works better in mathematics than it does in theology. The second obstacle is intrinsic to Unitarian Universalism itself. Though named after two doctrines, ours is a non-doctrinal faith. By definition, we don't even have to believe our own name. We can be free from, for, or against whatever we wish. We should be thankful for that, but we must also remember that only respect for the worth and dignity of every human being and a shared commitment to the interdependent web of being, each among Unitarian Universalist guiding principles, present a saving alternative to the perils of interscene resulting in division in an ever more fractious world. Our sermon or talk or guest speaker this morning, many of our older church members, as I said, will remember John Maindonald, who attended our church for many years before moving to Australia, where he held the position of a visiting research fellow at the Centre for Mathematics and its Application. His professional interests have included science and new computing technology. John has delivered several thoughtful talks to us over the past year, and John now joins us from Wellington. Welcome, John.
Thank you very much, Shireen. Today, no business of any size uses paper-based accounting. The move from paper-based systems started in the late 1950s, when large corporations started using computer mainframes, as they were called, the basic operation. In the 1990s, personal computers made computer-based accounting systems widely available. The chatbots have attracted wide attention in the past several years. They're a very different technology from accounting systems. In January of last year, Ed Thorne spoke about finding our humanity in a technologized world, looking in particular at the abilities of the 2024 chatbots akin to ChatGPT. Chatbots are not all that new. The Eliza chatbot came on the scene in the 1960s one could ask the question, what can you say that will make me happy? And would come back with a simple response. ChatGPT, of course, vastly more powerful beast, using information gathered from the internet for answers usually appear plausible. Ted asked ChatGPT to write a sermon for the Auckland Unitarian Church of around 1,000 words, focusing on the most prominent features of Unitarian Church sermons, and then used the chatbot response for the first part of his talk. That was in January last year. The response included a reference to Principles 1 and 7, noting that as Unitarian Universalists, we believe in the inherent worth and dignity of every person, and we also uphold a respect for the independent web of all existence. It went on to say that it's up to us to use technology in a way that enhances our humanity rather than diminishing it. Amen to that. Two of the other principles that are very pertinent to today's discussion, not mentioned by ChatGPT, are the third that speaks of justice, equity, and compassion in human relations, and the sixth that speaks of the goal of world community with peace, liberty, and justice for all. ChatGPT is one of several chatbots that are available to try on the web. Others include Microsoft Copilot, Google Gemini, and Perplexity. The term artificial intelligence for AI has come into common use in the past decade as a generic name for this and other computer technologies that are now in wide use. What constitutes AI is not well defined. What's in mind are powerful computational systems that, with advances in the power of computers and in the code that they run, have extended their reach dramatically in the recent past. As I will illustrate, even with an older and more conventional computer code, things can go seriously wrong. Too often, managers who buy such systems are not adequately informed on what they are taking on. Their training has fitted them for a different time and place. Perplexity had no problem when I asked it, what are the implications of AI for the human future? I have selected key sentences from its response. David? So it talked about economic impact, healthcare advances, ethics and governance, social dynamics, environmental sustainability, and education. So let's now look at the first of these, economic impact. AI has the potential to transform industries, automate jobs, and increase productivity. While it may create new job opportunities, there's also concern about job displacement and the need for reskilling. Indeed. And then healthcare advances. AI can enhance diagnostics, personalised treatment plans, and streamline operations in healthcare, leading to better patient outcomes and more efficient systems. But those who want to employ such systems had better check very carefully that the systems really do what is claimed. They don't always. And then ethics and governance. The rise of AI raises important ethical questions about bias, privacy, and accountability. Establishing frameworks for responsible AI development and usage will be crucial. And then social dynamics. AI could alter social interactions and relationships, impacting everything from communication to privacy. There's also potential for increased surveillance and erosion of personal freedom. Indeed, AI systems are altering social interactions in concerning ways. We saw some of that in the campaigning for the US election. AI can contribute to environmental monitoring, resource management, and energy efficiency, aiding in efforts to combat climate change. But what's also noteworthy is that AI systems are very energy hungry, taking about 2% of global electricity use in 2020, and that will be more now. Education. AI has the potential to personalise learning experiences, making education more accessible and tailored to individual needs, but it also raises questions about data security and equity. Ethics and governance and social dynamics are where I want to focus attention. There's first of all the issue of putting too much trust in these systems. Banking systems have changed dramatically in the past 50 years. One unfortunate result is that the new online systems have given scammers a field day, with losses steadily increasing year by year. Those who are not very tech savvy are, of course, the most vulnerable. In a talk he gave in Wellington recently, Andy Prow, who is chair of New Zealand Tech's Digital Safety Board, argued that banks are not doing nearly enough to protect customers from scammers, noting specific steps that could and should be required to take. One can expect to hear more from him in due course. In 1999, the British Post Office installed a new accounting system that replaced the former paper-based systems for use by the sub-postmasters in its more than 11,000 post office branches. The post office had the authority to bring its own prosecutions independently of the police. Faults in the software had the results that more than 900 postmasters were wrongly convicted of theft, fraud, and false accounting. It took until 220 to get an inquiry into what had gone wrong. Their convictions are still in the process of being overturned, with the cost of reparations likely to be of the order of £1.4 billion. There have been devastating effects for the sub-postmasters involved. Many have had their livelihoods ruined, some went to prison, and 4 committed suicide. The story is told in the TV series Mr. Bates versus the Post Office that was released at the beginning of this year. After his post office contract was terminated in 2003 over a false shortfall, Mr. Bates sought out other sub-postmasters in the same position and went on to found the Justice for Sub-Postmasters Alliance in 2009, leading finally to the 2020 inquiry. How did those who supplied the software, the post office management, and the courts allow these horrors to extend over 2 decades? It seems unbelievable. This is by no means the only example of its kind, but it is an especially serious one. Organisations that supply software, whether for accounting or for what is now being called AI, need to be held to high standards. The EU has been a leader with a set of standards that were mandated last August the 1st to come into force in 3 years' time. Accurate data is very often an issue. Modern aircraft are heavily reliant on automated guidance systems. In a race to compete with a new, more fuel-efficient Airbus 320 design that was released in 2010, Boeing immediately started work on a new 737 design with larger engines that were moved up under the wing and slightly forward, changing the aerodynamics. One result was that the nose had a tendency to pitch upward under certain conditions when the plane was under manual control. An add-on software system was therefore installed, relying on just one of the 2 angle of attack sensors that was designed to come on automatically when the upward pitching was detected. But Boeing obtained permission to omit mention of the add-on software system from the instruction manual for pilots, arguing that it was for all practical purposes fail-safe. The problem was that the software was unable to detect when the information it was getting from the one angle of attack sensor on which it relied was faulty. 2 crashes, one in 2018 and one in 2019, led to the death of 346 passengers. These sorts of problems arise all over the place. Mechanisms for detecting when the data is flawed and allowing control to pass over to human experts are essential with all these systems. I used a chatbot to get a perspective on AI, and it gave a pretty reasonable answer. But when it comes to detail where the text that is on the web has to be carefully read and understood, chatbots can get it badly wrong. Thus, a court reporter who checked what the co-pilot chatbot would say about articles he had written found himself identified as having committed crimes on which he had reported. Pretty horrible crimes, actually, some of them. A search on the web for chatbot nonsense will find more such examples. Or look for chatbot hallucinations, which is the standard word used. The extent to which chatbots are being promoted as a way for firms to provide customer guidance on websites is worrying. In 2022, a chatbot for Air Canada promised Jack Moffat that he could book a full fare flight for his grandmother's funeral and then apply for a bereavement fare after the fact. The airline said, he should have looked at the online reference that was given that backed this up, that gave the correct information. A tribunal sided with Moffat, rejecting the argument that he should have gone to the link provided. This set an important precedent. Interestingly, a New Zealand government website currently directed at small business-facing ministries and organisations went online a few weeks ago. One can type in questions and it will respond. Users are warned, may produce answers that are incorrect, biased, or not referenced in source material, does not provide advice nor represent the New Zealand government. Can the government really escape that easily? Those who manage systems for interacting online with banks should by now have a clear understanding of the issues, even if those issues are not as well handled as they should be. Chatbots that are used for providing advice to customers are a new challenge. Managers are unlikely to have been trained to cut through the hype of AI salespeople and to carefully assess the risks as well as the benefits that go with investing in what may be very expensive systems. They're told if competitors install this, the AI system with its competitive advantage, if competitors install this AI system with its competitive advantages before you do, you will miss out. A study published in mid-August by American think tank RAND noted that by some estimates, an astonishing 80% of all AI projects fail, more than double the rate for non-AI projects. The Australian government has recently put out a set of draft standards of particular interest to these guardrails, as they're called, that accompany them. For now, at least, these are voluntary, but they do set a standard to which those who sell AI systems can be asked to commit. The guardrails asked organisations to commit to understanding the specific factors and attributes of their use, to meaningfully engage with stakeholders, to performing appropriately detailed risk and impact assessments, and to undertaking testing and to adopting appropriate controls and actions so that the AI deployment is safe and responsible. There are 8 associated principles that are shown in the slide that David will now put up. They are human, societal, and environmental well-being, human-centered values, fairness, privacy and security, reliability and safety, transparency and explainability, contestability, and accountability. And there's a lot in common with the 7 principles and with the newly agreed value statement. I'm suggesting that the human, societal, and environmental well-being, that links to the 7 principles numbers 1, 2, 5, 6, and 7, very strong connections. Human-centered values, linking to principles 1, 2, and 6. Fairness, linking to principles 2 and 6, so 1, 2, and 6, and 2 and 6. Privacy, protection, and security links to principles 6 and 7. Reliability and safety to principle 2. Transparency and explainability to principle 2. Contestability to principle 2. And accountability to principle 2. There's a lot to think about there. If only such principles could be applied, not just in relation to AI, but in our society more generally, Unitarians and UUs are called by the standards that we've set for ourselves to be awake to the changes taking place in our societies and to do what we can to help direct them in positive directions. As Forrest Church said in the reading that we listened to earlier, a 21st century theology needs nothing more and requires nothing less than a new universalism, one that will draw a fractured world together. It is indeed up to us to use technology in a way that enhances our humanity rather than diminishing it. Where do we start? Beyond making ourselves informed, there is no easy answer, and I'm very keen to hear what you think. For further reading, some of the links in the online text that Paul placed on the website may be useful. The Auckland and Wellington Public Libraries both have several hundred books on AI. Some of them, quite a large proportion of them actually, are identifying strong risks. One that I recommend is Moral AI and How We Get There by Jana Borg and 2 others. The authors are a philosopher, a data scientist, and a computer scientist. Thank you for listening, and I leave you with a challenge.
Thank you, John, for your always exquisitely researched and presented material, and it has certainly given us all a great deal to think about. I wonder if I could ask you, Lynn, to come and extinguish the chalice. And could I invite all of us to join in with the closing words? We extinguish this flame, but not the light of truth, the warmth of community, or the fire of commitment. These we carry in our hearts until we are together again. Our closing words as we go forward are by Cheryl Block. As we go forward into this frightening, exhilarating, confusing, miraculous world, may we offer our comfort to the afflicted, our love to those who are lonely, and our wish for all to be safe. So David will put up the question to get us started, which is, what can we do to educate ourselves on the risks and the opportunities of the world to which we are moving? Are there steps, however small, that we can as individuals and as a community take that will help push changes in a positive direction? So that gives us a little food for thought anyway, before we have a cup of tea, at least before we depart.